Government-backed guarantees for up to 15% of a home loan will be made available to millions of Australians with next month's budget to include a major expansion of home buyer support programs. Live now to political reporter Cameron Redden in Canberra. Good afternoon once again, Cam. So who will be eligible under these changes?
Yeah, it's quite a sizable expansion, Janie, to be confirmed in the budget in just 9 days' time. This is the scheme, the First Home Buyer Guarantee, that would allow somebody, or an individual or a couple that is an Australian citizen, to access a home at a deposit of just 5%, while the government would go as a guarantor for up to 15% of the total value of that home loan. It means you don't have to pay things like mortgage insurance for the lender. So it could save thousands of dollars by accessing this scheme. We can show you from July 1 some of the changes that are going to come into place, opening up eligibility to millions, literally, of more Australians. Now that you'll just be able to have two people that are willing participants to go in, pool their money together and get a 5% deposit, that opens the way for siblings, say if a brother and sister want to pool their money together to access this scheme, a parent and a child, if you're two mates, and you'll also be able to do so if you are a permanent resident. The qualification, the necessity to be an Australian citizen will be removed, opening the door to permanent residents. What we do also know there is going to be a change to the eligibility in terms of how many people, well, there it is there, the change in eligibility, who's able to get it. What there won't be matching, though, is an increase in the actual number of places. There'll be no expansion of the number of places for each of these schemes. 35,000 you can see there for the First Home Scheme, 10,000 for the Regional Scheme, 5,000 for the Family Home Scheme, which is for single parents with a dependent child to access a home, and this government guarantee as well. There is an expansion of the Family Home Scheme to include legal guardians, so the likes of aunts, uncles, grandparents. But while the eligibility expands, there won't be an expansion in the actual raw number of places on offer. The argument from the government here is that by expanding this eligibility, it'll improve the access for those in vulnerable situations to the housing market in areas where they might not otherwise have had a chance.
We currently have people who are banding together to enable deposits to be raised, probably the fastest growing group, which is older women who have found themselves through, again, circumstances in their lives where marriages may have broken down, where they may have not had sufficient superannuation and living in a situation where they're in poverty and homeless. What we will have is a greater number of people who are eligible.
Obviously, this will help in some small way. It's part of the total package of solutions required. But the biggest challenge we've got is supply. And I think we've got to have an honest conversation with Australians about whether they're going to have the 600 square metre block. They might have to live in a unit, and the quickest way to get supply, particularly in capital cities, is to go up, not out.
And Cam, with the budget just over a week away, could the bottom line, do you think, look slightly better than first thought?
Well, the Finance Minister, Katy Gallagher, is quite upbeat today. She's talking about a significant, to use her words, improvement in the budget bottom line, due in part to this increasing tax take that we've seen in recent days. In simple terms, that means the government is getting more income from personal income and company and other taxes. So the Prime Minister still promising a budget of restraint. But what we're going to see here on May 9, just 9 days away, is some of the work from the government's waste audit, the next phase of this waste audit that began last year to identify potential savings and areas for efficiencies within the budget. It raked in an additional $22 billion of savings in the last budget. It won't quite be that high in the May budget, but we're still expecting billions of dollars to be saved through that. What we do know on the other side is this area of unavoidable spending that the government has told us more about today. $5 billion in spending for programs that were due to expire on June 30. At the end of this financial year, the funding was going to run out on things like the eSafety Commission, on MyGov, My Health Record, and even the management of things like nuclear waste, all essential programs that would continue long into the future, but the funding in the budget was not there. So the government has had to go, in the words of Michelle Rowland, the Communications Minister, plugging gaps in this budget to stop the money from leaking out.
It was booby-trapped, without a doubt. I mean, it's taken us some time to uncover them because programs, are ending on the 30th of June this year or looking at next year, and we've worked through that. But there's no doubt they were booby-trapped.
We have made substantial savings leading into this budget, hard decisions being made, but at the same time we need to plug some $5 billion of gaps where the previous government failed to fund adequately some pretty essential facilities. After the 30th of June, the funding for that goes off a cliff.
So just 9 days away, Jim Chalmers, the government's second budget, Janie. The S word is starting to get talked about more and more, the potential of a surprise surplus on budget night, given the savings that are being found, commodity price assumptions being revised, and also this increasing tax take that the government is working with. It's not completely off the table, but remains a possibility, Janie.